to miss it, get your tickets. But for now, enjoy everything that Kigali has to offer and the very, very best wishes for a successful Chogam. Once again, you're most welcome. Murakaza Nez. Hello and welcome to Kigali. Now I know you've traveled far and wide to come to the land of 1,000 hills. And whether this is your first time to visit Rwanda or you're a frequent flyer, we cannot wait to show you the amazing, exciting things our capital city has to offer throughout the entire Chogam week. Now let's start right here. In the heart of the city, from the 20th of June all the way through to the 25th of June, you can check out the Kigali Street Festival right here at the Imbuga City Walk, where you can discover our amazing Made in Rwanda artisans, some street food, and so much more. And even at night, Kigali is buzzing. We just love to have a great time. And you can see it for yourself at the Kigali People's Festival here in the car-free zone of Kisimenti and the Nyamirambo car-free zone. And we've got some amazing food. For the active souls, we've got you covered. Sign up for the Kigali Nights Run on the 21st of June at 7 p.m. It'll be fun, come on. And you know what they say, our common health is our commonwealth. It's only 5K, you can do it, come on. Are you a fashion enthusiast? Then get your ticket to a front row seat at the launch of the Commonwealth Marketplace at Atelier on the 21st of June. Also come get your hands on some of the most exciting fashion must-haves by curated designers from all across the Commonwealth. So whether you're a bowler or a batsman, or just a fan of great sport, don't miss the cricket exhibition match, which will take place here at the magnificent Gahanga Cricket Stadium on the 23rd of June. I'm going to have a go. And on the 24th of June, tee off at the networking golf tournament here at the Kigali Golf Resort. Put your golfing skills to the test. To top off a very special week, catch a vibe at the Chop Live Kigali concert on the 25th of June in BK Arena. The lineup is incredible. You will not want to miss it. Get your tickets. But for now, enjoy everything that Kigali has to offer and the very, very best wishes for a successful Chogam. Once again, you're most welcome. Murakaza Nez. Hello and welcome to Kigali. Now I know you've traveled far and wide to come to the land of 1,000 hills. And whether this is your first time to visit Rwanda or you're a frequent flyer, we cannot wait to show you the amazing, exciting things our capital city has to offer throughout the entire Chogam week. Now let's start right here. In the heart of the city, from the 20th of June all the way through to the 25th of June, you can check out the Kigali Street Festival right here at the Imbuga City Walk, where you can discover our amazing Made in Rwanda artisans, some street food, and so much more. And even at night, Kigali is buzzing. We just love to have a great time. And you can see it for yourself at the Kigali People's Festival here in the car-free zone of Kisimenti and the Nyamirambo car-free zone. And we've got some amazing food. For the active souls, we've got you covered. Sign up for the Kigali Nights Run on the 21st of June at 7 p.m. It'll be fun, come on. And you know what they say, our common health is our commonwealth. It's only 5K, you can do it, come on. Are you a fashion enthusiast? Then get your ticket to a front row seat at the launch of the Commonwealth Marketplace at Atelier on the 21st of June. Also come get your hands on some of the most exciting fashion must-haves by curated designers from all across the Commonwealth. So whether you're a bowler or a batsman, or just a fan of great sport, don't miss the cricket exhibition match, which will take place here at the magnificent Gahanga Cricket Stadium on the 23rd of June. I'm going to have a go. And on the 24th of June, tee off at the networking golf tournament here at the Kigali Golf Resort. Put your golfing skills to the test. To top off a very special week, catch a vibe at the Chop Live Kigali concert on the 25th of June in BK Arena. The lineup is incredible. You will not want to miss it. Get your tickets. But for now, enjoy everything that Kigali has to offer and the very, very best wishes for a successful Chogam. Once again, you're most welcome. Murakaza Nez. Hello and welcome to Kigali. Now I know you've traveled far and wide to come to the land of 1,000 hills. And whether this is your first time to visit Rwanda or you're a frequent flyer, we cannot wait to show you the amazing, exciting things our capital city has to offer throughout the entire Chogam week. Now let's start right here. In the heart of the city, from the 20th of June all the way through to the 25th of June, you can check out the Kigali Street Festival right here at the Imbuga City Walk, where you can discover our amazing Made in Rwanda artisans, some street food, and so much more. And even at night, Kigali is buzzing. We just love to have a great time. And you can see it for yourself at the Kigali People's Festival, here in the car-free zone of Kisimenti and the Nyamirambo car-free zone. And we've got some amazing food. For the active souls, we've got you covered. Sign up for the Kigali Nights Run on the 21st of June at 7 p.m. It'll be fun, come on. And you know what they say, our common health is our Commonwealth. It's only 5K, you can do it, come on. Are you a fashion enthusiast? Then get your ticket to a front row seat at the launch of the Commonwealth Marketplace at Atelier on the 21st of June. Also come get your hands on some of the most exciting fashion must-haves by curated designers from all across the Commonwealth. So whether you're a bowler or a batsman, or just a fan of great sport, don't miss the cricket exhibition match, which will take place here at the magnificent Gahanga Cricket Stadium on the 23rd of June. I'm going to have a go. And on the 24th of June, tee off at the networking golf tournament here at the Kigali Golf Resort. Put your golfing skills to the test. To top off a very special week, catch a vibe at the Chop Live Kigali concert on the 25th of June in BK Arena. The lineup is incredible. You will not want to miss it. Get your tickets. But for now, enjoy everything that Kigali has to offer and the very, very best wishes for a successful Chogam. Once again, you're most welcome. Murakaza Nez. Hello and welcome to Kigali. Now I know you've traveled far and wide to come to the land of 1,000 hills. And whether this is your first time to visit Rwanda or you're a frequent flyer, we cannot wait to show you the amazing, exciting things our capital city has to offer throughout the entire Chogam week. Now let's start right here. In the heart of the city, from the 20th of June all the way through to the 25th of June, you can check out the Kigali Street Festival right here at the Imbuga City Walk, where you can discover our amazing Made in Rwanda artisans, some street food, and so much more. And even at night, Kigali is buzzing. We just love to have a great time. And you can see it for yourself at the Kigali People's Festival, here in the car-free zone of Kisimenti and the Nyamirambo car-free zone. And we've got some amazing food. For the active souls, we've got you covered. Sign up for the Kigali Nights Run on the 21st of June at 7 p.m. It'll be fun, come on. And you know what they say, our common health is our Commonwealth. It's only 5K, you can do it, come on. Are you a fashion enthusiast? Then get your ticket to a front row seat at the launch of the Commonwealth Marketplace at Atelier on the 21st of June. Also come get your hands on some of the most exciting fashion must-haves by curated designers from all across the Commonwealth. So whether you're a bowler or a batsman, or just a fan of great sport, don't miss the cricket exhibition match, which will take place here at the magnificent Gahanga Cricket Stadium on the 23rd of June. I'm going to have a go. And on the 24th of June, tee off at the networking golf tournament here at the Kigali Golf Resort. Put your golfing skills to the test. To top off a very special week, catch a vibe at the Chop Live Kigali concert on the 25th of June in BK Arena. The lineup is incredible. You will not want to miss it. Get your tickets. But for now, enjoy everything that Kigali has to offer and the very, very best wishes for a successful Chogam. Once again, you're most welcome. Murakaza Nez. Hello and welcome to Kigali. Now I know you've traveled far and wide to come to the land of 1,000 hills. And whether this is your first time to visit Rwanda or you're a frequent flyer, we cannot wait to show you the amazing, exciting things our capital city has to offer throughout the entire Chogam week. Now let's start right here. In the heart of the city, from the 20th of June all the way through to the 25th of June, you can check out the Kigali Street Festival right here at the Imbuga City Walk, where you can discover our amazing Made in Rwanda artisans, some street food, and so much more. And even at night, Kigali is buzzing. We just love to have a great time. And you can see it for yourself at the Kigali People's Festival here in the car-free zone of Kisimenti and the Nyamirambo car-free zone. And we've got some amazing food. For the active souls, we've got you covered. Sign up for the Kigali Nights Run on the 21st of June at 7 p.m. It'll be fun, come on. And you know what they say, our common health is our Commonwealth. It's only 5K, you can do it, come on. Are you a fashion enthusiast? Then get your ticket to a front row seat at the launch of the Commonwealth Marketplace at Atelier on the 21st of June. Also come get your hands on some of the most exciting fashion must-haves by curated designers from all across the Commonwealth. So whether you're a bowler or a batsman, or just a fan of great sport, don't miss the cricket exhibition match, which will take place here at the magnificent Gahanga Cricket Stadium on the 23rd of June. I'm going to have a go. And on the 24th of June, tee off at the networking golf tournament here at the Kigali Golf Resort. Put your golfing skills to the test. To top off a very special week, catch a vibe at the Chop Live Kigali concert on the 25th of June in BK Arena. The lineup is incredible. You will not want to miss it. Get your tickets. But for now, enjoy everything that Kigali has to offer and the very, very best wishes for a successful Chogam. Once again, you're most welcome. Murakaza Nez. Hello and welcome to Kigali. Now I know you've traveled far and wide to come to the land of 1,000 hills. And whether this is your first time to visit Rwanda or you're a frequent flyer, we cannot wait to show you the amazing, exciting things our capital city has to offer throughout the entire Chogam week. Now let's start right here. In the heart of the city, from the 20th of June all the way through to the 25th of June, you can check out the Kigali Street Festival right here at the Imbuga City Walk, where you can discover our amazing Made in Rwanda artisans, some street food, and so much more. And even at night, Kigali is buzzing. We just love to have a great time. And you can see it for yourself at the Kigali People's Festival here in the car-free zone of Kisimenti and the Nyamirambo car-free zone. And we've got some amazing food. For the active souls, we've got you covered. Sign up for the Kigali Nights Run on the 21st of June at 7 p.m. It'll be fun, come on. And you know what they say, our common health is our Commonwealth. It's only 5K, you can do it, come on. Are you a fashion enthusiast? Then get your ticket to a front row seat at the launch of the Commonwealth Marketplace at Atelier on the 21st of June. Also come get your hands on some of the most exciting fashion must-haves by curated designers from all across the Commonwealth. So whether you're a bowler or a batsman, or just a fan of great sport, don't miss the cricket exhibition match, which will take place here at the magnificent Gahanga Cricket Stadium on the 23rd of June. I'm going to have a go. And on the 24th of June, tee off at the networking golf tournament here at the Kigali Golf Resort. Put your golfing skills to the test. To top off a very special week, catch a vibe at the Chop Live Kigali concert.
Hi everyone. If you could please just have our seats. We're about to kick off. Let's all kindly have our seats. Before we start, let's have a quick round of applause for people that are pushing sports on the continent who are right in front here. Gianni Infantino and Patrice Motsepe, fantastic. That was a great way to also let you know we're looking at you. Yeah, there we go. So, we're almost on the last lap. We'd like to finish this with a bang. There's a lot that's happening today, some very interesting conversations. We'll have some dignitaries come, a bit after, before we wrap up, but we should have a very, very interesting afternoon. My name is George Indirango. I'll be taking you through the next couple of hours, of course with panelists and moderators in between, so we'll see each other till the very end. To kick us off, we'd like to hear an opening address on the need for green, sustainable lending. Please allow us to welcome on stage Paul Russo, who's the CEO of KCB Group. Paul.
Your Excellencies, the heads of states and government, distinguished guests and speakers, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. Allow me to first say I'm humbled to speak here. It's actually my first month as the KCB Group CEO, and there's no better place to start conversations than in this forum. And in many instances, when you come around, you'll probably ask yourself, you haven't seen a KCB name. We operate in this market as a BPR bank. So we are regional, yet local. In Rwanda, we have the largest network. And actually, we are the #1 employer in banking in terms of headcount. We are proud to be part of this historic Commonwealth Business Forum, which is part of the Commonwealth Heads of Government meeting, as well as we share insight which will help our economies rebuild post the COVID. Specifically, it is a time to challenge ourselves about how to build a sustainable world. It's time to ask ourselves just how the family of Commonwealth nations under Rwanda leadership achieve a step change in renewal of the Commonwealth towards collective prosperity, economic sustainability, and societal resilience. Allow me to introduce KCB Group. We are playing a catalytic role in driving greater prosperity across Eastern Africa. And I'm actually proud to say we are looking to be in the newest family in East Africa community, the DRC, before the end of the year. We operate in Kenya, Tanzania, South Sudan, Rwanda, Uganda, and Burundi. We have a representative office in Ethiopia, and we serve over 24 million customers. We have 26 years of experience, try and support trade, connecting millions of people across the world for opportunities in the African continent. Our ambition is to be an undisputed leader. And our aim, particularly in Rwanda, is to drive digital and to deliver cashless agenda. I take a moment to talk about the green and sustainable lending. Ladies and gentlemen, we are now at a point where even critics can no longer deny the impact of climate change. Those of you who know where I come from, in northern Kenya, it's a reality. It's no longer about a debate. The droughts we are seeing, the rising sea levels, are a challenge that we have to deal with. As KCB, we embrace sustainability as a business imperative and concern. This is anchored under 4 pillars: financial, economic, social, and environmental stability. Over the years, we've remained firmly committed to integrating sustainability practices and environmental and social governance, whether it's in the markets that we operate in, whether it's in our policies and procedures, as well as in the culture that we push for. We have been making great strides on UNFI principles for responsible banking since becoming a founding signatory members since 2019. We have scaled our initiatives to support our suppliers to comply. On the environmental front, KCB Group undertakes an annual carbon footprint assessment to monitor internal resource consumption. The goal is to ensure that we keep our carbon footprint within 10% reducing trajectory as part of our commitment to net zero by 2050. Ladies and gentlemen, green lending is increasingly becoming core to business. As KCB, we are accredited by Green Climate Fund within the medium to large category band to advance climate finance, consequently strengthening climate action in adoption and mitigation, as well as building resilience in local economies. This allows the bank to receive GCF funds for on-lending to climate-resilient investments focused on mitigation and adoption projects of up to $250 million US. In addition to GCF funds, we have secured over US $150 million from international finance corporations and other lenders to support climate-sensitive investment undertaken by SMEs and corporate customers. Allow me to really, and to save time, to look at 3 pointers that we need to pursue. First, the conversation today must be aligned to how we safeguard the planet and people, even as we pursue profits. There is, for example, a great need for public and private financial institutions to scale up and directly finance investments that are necessary for transitioning to low-carbon, resilient economies globally and achieve net zero carbon emissions in the second half of this century. Transitioning to economy opens up many opportunities as well as posing many challenges. And this requires us to build, again, resilient societies by reducing and managing risks and to stimulate and take advantage of the new generation of opportunities for business and our economies. Multilateral development banks can play a pivotal role in efforts to shift global finance towards a sustainable future. Each year, these institutions invest over $150 billion US, mostly in developing and emerging economies. They can influence the financial decisions of others. By reducing risks associated with individual investments, they steer public and private finance towards activities that are vital to the transition to low carbon and climate resilient economies. Secondly, we see a future in which adopting and integrating inclusive business model will push business towards sustainable development. Financial institutions can be an enabler of economies in reducing carbon emissions and only supporting sustainable projects. Voluntarily, sustainable initiatives help financial services industry build foundations for regulation when needed. It helps to develop robust measurement and setting standards as basis for regulations. Thirdly, where governments have advanced alignment to the green agenda, there is room for regulatory improvement for increased uptake of sustainable projects, such as green fiscal policies to drive down cost of climate projects. Because of the nature of green projects, its financing risk, it requires financial instruments to de-risk, such as technical assistance and state-backed guarantees. As I conclude, I would like to emphasize that the economic consequences of climate change are already out there to be seen. There's growing evidence that extreme weather events related to climate change are rising across the globe. It's therefore, both at individual level, at our institutions, and from nations, the time to act. We must all show resolve, and this calls for public and private sectors to work together to accelerate the transition to a greener economy. Scientific evidence is clear, but the reality is with us. We can be able to change not only perception, but also habits and actions, including economies for the world, to be a better place for all. We need to pivot sustainable finance to be a tool for protecting communities and enhancing resilience. I think gone are the days where funding used to be brown projects. The ecosystem has changed, and we want to be partners for sustainable development. The time is now, and we need to align. I'm confident that we will reach better outcomes if we tackle these challenges through open dialogue, information sharing. And I commit that we will do our part. Thank you.
Thank you, Paul. Congratulations on the role. All the best for the KCB group moving forward. Now, we're about to get into a very exciting conversation. Sports, as we mentioned, The growth, attention, and commitment towards sports has changed tremendously over the last couple of years. We'll showcase that in just a bit and have one of the most talented people in the room chat about it with our panelists. But first, let's address our attentions to the screen and watch this video, courtesy of a member of the panel we'll invite next.
Cuando entro a la cancha me siento libre, como si nunca había estado.
El fútbol te está dando de comer, te está dando para vivir, es algo importante.
Football for me is the way forward.
Football for me is my life.
Football will conquer the entire world.
Here is the planet's ultimate game, the final of the 21st Football World Cup.
Ah, c'est gol, le premier but de Pogba dans cette Coupe du Monde. Et là, c'est pratiquement là. La France, championne du monde.
Let's have a warm round of applause. Time now to talk through it. We have a fireside chat on delivering growth through sport. Who best to take us through it than a force in the world of sports and my very good friend, Asha Komugisha. Please, warm round of applause.
Thank you very much, Georgie. Hello, everyone. Obviously, we saw the video and what football means across the entire world. Now, as we get into this session, allow me to introduce the head of football world over, the FIFA president, Gianni Infantino. And joining us here is the president of the Confederation of African Football, Dr. Patrice Motsepe. As you get comfortable, Gianni, I know you speak so many languages, but allow me to teach you how to say hello in Kinyarwanda, here in Rwanda. Murahoneza.
Murahoneza?
Good.
Murahoneza.
The same for you, Dr. Patrice. Murahoneza.
Murahoneza.
Great. We can get started now. I'll start with you, Gianni. The goal for this year's program is to build a common future, to innovate, to connect and to transform our societies. Football, which was born in the Commonwealth, what role does it have in all of this?
Well, let me first of all say how happy and proud I am to be here at this Commonwealth meeting. It's a great pleasure to be in Kigali, in Rwanda, and to speak about something that unites truly the whole of the Commonwealth, the whole of the world actually, which is football, right? So this is the topic that unites, and you were speaking about how can football contribute to this connection. We have seen these images earlier in this short video. The whole world gets united. The last Men's World Cup had 4 billion viewers. The last Women's World Cup, 1.2 billion viewers. I'm sure that 2.5 of these 4 billion were from the Commonwealth, because everyone here is a big football fan. But football unites as well countries in organizing, in hosting an event. We are in Africa, and of course Patrice and his fellow countrymen organized a fantastic World Cup in 2010, uniting the whole of Africa behind this World Cup. We have Qatar World Cup, this year, special year, 2022. Qatar uniting the whole Arab world for the first time, a World Cup in the Arab world. And the next one will be in North America, Mexico, United States, and Canada, in a period where people were discussing about the wall between Mexico and Canada. Well, these two countries, between Mexico and the United States, these two countries with Canada, were bidding to host a World Cup. So there are a lot of factors in football that contribute to unite people, and that's what we need, I think, more and more in our world.
Now, I know we don't have 90 minutes like is the case in football, but Dr. Patrice, I'm coming to you. A few months ago, you decided to run African football. What is it that you feel you'll contribute to this movement, to connect, to transform, and to innovate on this continent especially?
Well, you have to look at football, the sport that we love immensely and are very passionate about, within the context of its socio-economic upliftment role. I mean, the businesses that I'm associated with have operations in 40 countries in Africa, and of course we do business in other continents. So we've been extensively involved in football philanthropy over many, many years, because football is a unique tool to interact with the youth. We've got about 300 million young people on the African continent between the ages of 15 and 25. We need to create a future for them. And the business community, the people that are here from the Commonwealth, have an absolutely unique role to play in terms of education, skills, and uplifting people's standards of living, and of course, business growth and investment. But football is a unique instrument in terms of engaging with the youth, quite apart from engaging with all of us because of the huge impact it has. And within Africa, we use this, the force, the power, the engine of football, to ensure that African football, the quality of African football, is world-class, and football in Africa, the clubs in Africa, the nations in Africa can compete against the best in the world. And one of the objectives we've set for ourselves is that in the not-too-distant future, we are confident that an African nation will win, and hopefully it will be one of the football nations from the Commonwealth, from Africa, will win the World Cup. And that's part of what we are working towards.
It's interesting you say that. I'll stay with you, Dr. Patrice. We saw an incredible AFCON, the Africa Cup of Nations in Cameroon, and all these superstar players, Mohamed Salah, Sadio Mane, and all of them. When you see these players shine across the world, what idea do you get when you talk with your fellow businessmen in terms of investing in African football?
Very, very important question. And I always say to the business community that, and I can talk from my own personal experience, in the 40 countries in Africa where we've got huge investment, we've just done the biggest transaction with Allianz, the biggest insurance company in the world, with a company that we are the biggest shareholder called Sanlam. But it's a long-term partnership and a commitment to Africa. Those businesses that are part of the aspirations and the wishes and the passions of the nations within which they do business do better. More profits, more growth. So my message to the business community, wherever I go on the continent, is very simple. To partner with business in your country, to sponsor business in your country, makes good business sense. And it positions your business as part of the aspirations, the dreams, the wishes of the countries within which you do business. It builds client loyalty. It builds brand recognition and brand awareness. So I'm very proud that there are many African businesses that are putting huge resources into building infrastructure, football amongst girls. African girls' football and women's football is growing astronomically. And also African young football amongst the youth is also growing astronomically. So I just want to conclude by saying that, I mean, a few minutes ago, Didier Drogba phoned me. And I handed over the phone because he's a good friend of Gianni as well. But Africa has produced some of the best players in the world for many years. And Rwanda, I know that there's basketball. We also love basketball. The people here are very tall, but football is special. Football is unique. And so I always say to President Kagame, Rwanda is home. Support both. You have to support all sports. And you know, my job is to tell the business community that support all sports, but give more to football than the others.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's a great message. Gianni, I'll come back to you. You have repeatedly talked about how the FIFA World Cup in Qatar has transformed the Middle East. What can the Commonwealth learn from, particularly this World Cup?
Well, this is indeed a special year. I was saying it's a World Cup year. This, by the way, is the official ball of the World Cup in Qatar. So maybe after this session we can kick it in the public and somebody will be the lucky owner of that ball. Well, it's fair to say that the spotlight of the World Cup has transformed Qatar in terms of workers' rights, human rights, abolishment of kafala system, minimum wages for workers, and so on and so forth, which have happened thanks to the World Cup. This happens everywhere in the world where you invest in football, where you invest in news. Patrice was saying it, I mean, every sport is great, but football is more than a sport, it's more than a game, it's very special. It has this emotional bond, and that's why we are investing a lot in the Commonwealth in particular, because that's where I'm told by Commonwealth people, of course, football was born, right? Others, they say football is born somewhere else, but it doesn't matter. Football has many fathers and mothers. The important is to cherish the child, to invest in the game, to invest in education of our children through sport and through football, because with sport and football you can learn a lot. You can learn the respect of the rules, you can learn the team spirit. You win as a team. You win when you are united with the others. You don't win on your own. And we try with football to pass on these lessons together with everyone who is contributing to these great projects.
Thank you very much. Talking about Qatar, I saw the head of the Supreme Committee, Nasser El-Khoury. You can wave to, to everyone. The Supreme Committee is organizing the FIFA World Cup. Thank you, Nasser, for coming. Just a final question, and I need a straight answer, gentlemen. Like I said, we don't have 90 minutes, but your predictions who's winning the World Cup?
It has to be an African club, an African nation.
Okay, okay. Does it have a name?
Sorry?
Does the country have a name?
It is from Africa.
Thank you.
And Gianni will say it has to be a nation from the world, you know.
Exactly. No, but Gianni, seriously.
No, since I am from Rwanda and my country didn't qualify, you know,
wow.
I have to choose another one. So I hope that the referees team is doing well, because if they do well, I have a good World Cup.
Okay. Thank you so much, gentlemen. Thank you, Gianni Infantino. Thank you, Dr. Patrice. This was incredible. And you're welcome to Rwanda. Enjoy the land of 1,000 hills.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you.
So, the kicking of the ball was part of the script. Bidding for that ball starts at $70,000. Patrice, first bidder, $1.5 million. Fantastic. Asha, you asked the question all of us were itching to know, so thank you very much. An African country, all right. There we go. Thank you very much, Asha. Now, let's jump into the next session. We'd like to have a keynote on increasing cooperation and collaboration. Please allow me to welcome His Excellency Abdullah Shahid, President of the United Nations General Assembly. Kindly join us on stage.
A very good afternoon to you all. Unfortunately, I do not have a ball to kick, but I hope that every one of you have a lovely afternoon. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, I would like to start by thanking the government of Rwanda and the Commonwealth Enterprise and Investment Council. As a Commonwealth citizen, I am honored to participate in this first meeting since the outbreak of the COVID-19 pandemic. I particularly welcome this year's theme, Delivering a Common Future, Connecting, Innovating, Transforming with a Focus, a Global Reset. This topic is dear to my heart and particularly resonates right now as we strive to build a more resilient future and recover from COVID-19. As we are all aware, the pandemic has been devastating for our global economy, the backlash of which has been particularly acute for small island states and developing countries. For this reason, I have made recovery from COVID-19 a priority during my presidency of the General Assembly. Excellencies, dear friends, however perilous our road has been, we find ourselves in an opportune moment to build back better. This moment is one we must seize. We must learn from this and attempt to tackle the myriad challenges we face in addition to COVID-19, climate change being one of the most pressing. We cannot let this moment pass by. I urge the international community to accelerate SDG actions to build back better, stronger, greener, and bluer. The pandemic has shown us that science and innovation are at the heart of this effort to transform our world for the better and achieve our 2030 agenda. This was evidenced by the rapid and joint development of novel vaccine technology. We cannot let our ingenuity stop there. We must lean into our innovative capacities, strengths, and skills while ensuring no one is left behind. We must transform our production and consumption patterns to be more sustainable and resilient. We must alleviate the digital inequalities causing a rift between developed and developing countries. In this journey, business leaders and the private sector have a key role to play. As central actors of the global economy, you are in a unique position to invest in innovation and play a crucial role in shaping a more sustainable and resilient world. This requires adoption of sustainable and responsible business models, once in line with the 10 principles of the United Nations Global Compact. These principles drive competition while bolstering equity, inclusion, and climate resilience. The private company Zipline is an example to look to. Its role in both Rwanda's national blood delivery network and Ghana's COVID-19 vaccine distribution is an instance of successful partnership between public and private entities and demonstrates the use of innovation for common good. Excellencies, dear friends, achieving our complete recovery from COVID-19 and our SDG targets is conditional upon our prioritizing those most vulnerable. This includes women and young people. Inclusive and multilateral discussions are the only blueprint for a more resilient and sustainable world, guided by the SDGs. Today's panel illustrated both the challenges ahead and the innovative solutions we have at our disposal to resolve and overcome them. Let us seize the opportunity to build a new world, one built on science, innovation, and creativity. Let us truly build back better. I thank you.
Let's please keep the conversation going. Coming up next on stage is Alok Sharma, who's the president for COP26, to highlight the COP26 goals and how we're working on moving forward. Please join us on stage.
Well, thank you very much indeed for having me, and delighted to be here, friends. Over the past 2.5 years, I've spoken at numerous conferences and summits around the world, virtually and, of course, physically. And I've delivered many, many hundreds of speeches. And in doing so, I have shared stages with representatives from government, from business, and civil society. You've just heard from FIFA. I think somebody was lucky enough to get a ball too. You'll also hear from Google, the Norwegian African Business Association, and each organization is working to shape a future in which we can deliver prosperity, but without sacrificing the planet. And for me, it's truly encouraging to see such broad agreement on the need for climate action. And I do believe that we have hit that inflection point where governments, business, and civil society are broadly united in wanting to tackle climate change and deliver both an environmental and an economic dividend. And I'm pleased, therefore, that Rwanda, in its role as Commonwealth chair in office, is using this session to consider how we deliver economic prosperity, but without sacrificing the planet. And it is a key question that our family of Commonwealth nations needs to address, and address urgently: how we can achieve collective prosperity, economic sustainability, and societal resilience all at the same time. That, my friends, is the ball that I'm kicking to you. And if we are to achieve these goals, working through the international system is going to be absolutely critical. I mean, just look at COP26. Some of you who are with us today were also with us in November. Back then, under the UK stewardship, almost 200 countries forged the historic Glasgow Climate Pact. And despite a challenging global geopolitics, even then, we were able to bring nations together because each of us recognized that it was in our collective self-interest to act on climate. Now, the Glasgow Climate Pact forges a path to a clean global future. It keeps alive the possibility of limiting the rise in global temperatures to 1.5 degrees. And it told a watching world that leaders, including many of the leaders who are here at this conference, it told the world that leaders could and would rise above their differences and unite against that common challenge. The pact calls on countries to phase down unabated coal power and to phase out inefficient fossil fuel subsidies. It contains big commitments on climate mitigation, on adaptation, and on finance. And it also sets out a way forward on the crucial issue of loss and damage. It was, for me, an extraordinary privilege to play my part as Shepherd-in-Chief at that event. Now, of course, we have to acknowledge that the world has changed since then. We meet today against the backdrop of multiple global crises. And indeed, the managing director of the IMF, Kristalina Georgieva, has described our situation as the most universally complex policy environment of our lifetime. And therefore, climate is understandably no longer on the front pages. But the current crisis should increase, not diminish, our determination to deliver on what the world agreed in Glasgow. Even as we deal with the immediate challenges facing us, all the evidence, including the latest findings from various UN reports, makes clear that the chronic threat of climate change is getting worse. And my friends, I have to say this to you, climate change does not recognize borders. Look in your own countries and see what's happening. And the Commonwealth is no exception to facing the harsh impacts of global warming. Last year, we saw wildfires rage in Australia. This year, India and Pakistan have experienced unbearable temperatures. 1 billion people exposed to extreme heat in some of the hottest months since records began. And in South Africa, where I've just come from, floods have swept the province of KwaZulu-Natal, destroying buildings and claiming lives. At the same time, Vladimir Putin's illegal, brutal, and unprovoked war against Ukraine has amplified that climate and environmental security are interlinked with energy and national security. And that is why the UK is so focused on using the remaining months of our COP26 presidency to turn commitments into action. What it needs, friends, is for us to focus on implementation, and every country must respond to the Glasgow Climate Pact's call to revisit and strengthen their 2030 emission reduction targets this year. And we need countries to submit those emission reduction targets by the UNFCCC's deadline on September the 23rd, including their long-term strategies. And so we are continuing to push for practical progress on mitigation, on finance, on adaptation, and on loss and damage. And we continue to press for further progress in critical sectors and on clean technologies. And I remain specially focused on the most climate vulnerable countries and communities, many of whom are represented here. Because for these nations in particular, the situation is devastatingly clear. As Prime Minister Mia Mottley of Barbados told us in Glasgow, for her country, a 2 degrees rise is a death sentence. And for many, tackling climate change is literally that. It's the difference between life and death. So to deliver on effective climate action, we're going to continue to push forward for more funding through just energy transition partnerships. We're going to be working on increasing finance for adaptation, including ensuring that the private sector is mobilizing finance as well. And it means listening to the consistent calls from climate vulnerable countries to improve access to finance as well. If I just say to you that in Africa, Africa is responsible for less than 3% of global emissions. And yet, on this continent, there are very many countries that are at the front line of climate change. And therefore, we know that change is necessary. We know that change is in our collective self-interest. And we know that change will not happen unless we act, and unless we act now. And so it's time for world leaders, the leaders here at this conference, to demonstrate that they are delivering on the commitments that they have made. Together, we can and we must make this a year of delivery to keep 1.5 degrees alive and to deliver prosperity, but without sacrificing the planet. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Alok. Now you'll see the setup change slightly. We're we just want to change things a bit to accommodate the next conversation. Tackling climate change is exactly that, a matter of life and death. Thanks to Alok for that solid reminder. The next session is a short panel discussion on achieving a greener future. We already have context, so let's dig a little deeper with a bit more conversation. Achieving a greener future, progress, challenges, and what we need to address as the next steps. On stage, we'll have James Manyika, who's the Senior VP of Technology and Society for Google USA, Nigel Topping, UK high-level champion for COP26, and former CEO of Women Business, and Grant Reed, President and CEO of Mars Inc., United States. So, I would like to call on stage to just give a bit more context and introduce them formally to the stage. Landre Akinola, who's the head of content for the Norwegian African Business Association. Landre?
Okay, good. While they sort out that mic, very quickly, we're up against the clock. So I think we make, which is fitting because the world is up against the clock in terms of building a more sustainable future. So we won't beat around the bush, and what I'd like to do is invite the panelists to come up. Georgie's just briefly introduced them. If you want to look them up, there's plenty of information on them out there, but we want to get the most out of the 18 or so minutes that we have. Please, gentlemen and lady, one person was missed out. We also have Boholo Kenewendo, who is the Africa Director and Special Advisor of the UN Climate Champions, and she's the former Minister of Trade and Investment of Botswana. Okay, now, as much as we'd like to sit around, sit around and talk a lot. We are the final session before the big closing. So let's make urgency the theme of this discussion, and let's try to keep it short, sharp, to the point, because that really, in the real world, is what's needed as well. So what I'm going to do to start is have a quick round of opening thoughts and some quick perspectives on, hey, what are the priorities for a sustainable future? And we're just going to take it from left to right, and we'll start with Grant Reed, CEO of Mars Inc. We all know the iconic candy bars, but agriculture and sustainability are at the core of what you do.
Great. Well, thank you, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here. Just very quickly, I'm CEO of a large family business called Mars Incorporated, about $45 billion business. Most of you would know our brands, but what you probably don't know is we're really an agricultural company. 80% of our greenhouse gas emissions come from agriculture. We're a purpose-led company. We believe that the world we want tomorrow starts with how we do business today, and that's why we're so passionate about changing the trajectory on climate change. We really believe that we have to get to 1.5 degrees or below, and agriculture is an essential part of that. A third of greenhouse gas emissions come from agriculture. And this is a great opportunity to be at CHOGM, to get that force and collaboration of public-private NGO partnership to really make a change in the world. So that's why we're here.
Thank you, Grant. James, Google, another big piece of the puzzle, technology in the digital economy.
Well, thank you. Such a pleasure to be here, and I'm delighted that Rwanda is hosting this extraordinary summit. And I think the focus on sustainable, inclusive growth is fundamentally important, and I'm sure we'll come back to in some more detail. But what I wanted to focus on, Landre, is to talk specifically about the role that digital technologies can actually play in developing and delivering, hopefully, a prosperous future, especially with emerging countries and the Commonwealth in mind. So I'm going to focus my comments specifically on Africa, to give particular Africa examples. So over the years, both before I joined Google, but also while I'm at Google, I spent a lot of time thinking about what is it about digital technologies that can lead to transformation of especially emerging and developing countries? And in all that research and work, 4 things stand out. And in fact, what I'm going to comment on that Google's doing is actually anchored on those 4 things. The first one is that it's actually fundamentally important that we have a digital infrastructure. And in the case of developing countries, this is particularly important with regards to access, data costs, and even device costs. So that's one factor. Second factor is that it's very important to develop human capital that has the right skills, in fact, to follow through on the digital economy. Third, it's going to be very important to have a real engine for technology innovation and entrepreneurship that's actually grounded in developing countries in Africa. And then finally, I think it's important to have pro-competitive dynamics and forces, particularly coming from regulations from countries to enable this kind of things to happen. But let me say a few more things about each of these points. First, on infrastructure, one of the things that Google's been doing, and I'm proud to say, is that, in fact, Google made an early bet on African infrastructure back in 2005 in the CCOM cable, and this is at a time when Google was still only 5 years old. So it was an extraordinary bet to make at the time. Most recently, and I'm glad to say it just happened a couple weeks ago, the Equiano cable, which we've been building from South Africa all the way through Togo, finally reached Lagos on June the 4th. And this will bring extraordinary capacity to the backbone to communications, which will dramatically improve access costs. In addition to that, I should also point out that we've been exploring device financing models with a set of partners. As you know, the cost of devices, particularly in developing countries, is extraordinary. So these are some of the things we're doing on infrastructure. Second, let me say something about human capital. On the human capital front, I mean, our CEO, Sundar Pichai, made a commitment back in 2017 that we were going to bring digital skills to 10 million Africans in 5 years. And I'm glad to say that we're actually well on our way. In fact, so far, we've now given digital skills to about 6 million Africans in several countries in Africa. In addition, thank you. In addition, we've also been focusing on actually creating development capabilities. So we made a commitment to deliver digital certificates and training to about 100,000 developers. Developers are very, very important. We've already reached about 80,000. As you know, one of the things that's extraordinary is that Africa now has close to about 760,000 developers. And one of the things that's recognized about that is something like 1 in 5 of them are actually women. And that's actually more, by the way, in the US. In the US, the percentage of women developers is only 15%. Africa has 21%. We need to grow that number in a big way. So the human capital part is very, very important. Third point is around entrepreneurship. We made a commitment recently to create an Africa investment fund. So far, we put $50 million into it to fund entrepreneurs and companies. In fact, we even have a Black Founders Fund alongside that investment fund. But the most significant thing that I think we've done recently is we recently announced an Africa Development Center that's going to be based in Kenya. That's a big investment we're making because we think the ability to build African-based products that are grounded in understanding what's going on in Africa is very, very important. And then, as some of you may know about me, I have a strong background in artificial intelligence, and I'm excited to say that we actually opened this year an AI research center in Ghana, which is the first of its kind to actually do fundamental artificial intelligence research on the African continent that's led by Google. So we're excited about that. And then finally, I want to say, and perhaps we'll come back to this, Lanre, in all of this, it's really important to do this with partnerships. And we've been trying to build an extraordinary number of partnerships. We're partnering with telco providers and mobile providers. We've done something with, for example, with Safaricom. We're currently in discussions with MTN and Vodacom, because if we can help reduce the data costs and other costs for users across the continent, we think that'll make an extraordinary difference. So these are some of the things that we are doing, Lanre, and I'd like to come back later in the conversation to talk about sustainability.
Thank you, James. Glad to hear how Google is chipping away at the digital divide, which is one of the biggest threats to the competitiveness of Africa and other developing regions in the 21st century. Now, I've received a bit of good news. We've been given a bit more time. We can go until 1:10. And before we get to you, Nigel, I just want to throw it back to you, Grant. I feel like you got a bit shortchanged there on the opening remarks. I want to give you an opportunity for a minute or two to talk about where you see some of the priorities and some of the action points in the way James has outlined.
Yeah, great. Well, thank you. I know we were up against time, so I was keeping it tight, much to your delight, I'm sure. You know, I finished with the call to action. I think the, you know, why is it critical? You represent 54 countries, 2.5 billion people, and their lives and livelihoods are critical. And we just heard that growth is also critical, but it has to be sustainable growth. I've got the honor to lead the SMI group under the auspices of His Royal Highness the Prince of Wales, and it's really brought together the full value chain of powerful players to see how can we implement regenerative agriculture more quickly around the world. So just to give you some perspective, regenerative agriculture is a phenomenal way to bring carbon out of the air and at the same time produce high quality, high yield crops. And the opportunity really is that only 15% of the world is using that, and it's expanding only at 0.6 a year. So there's a phenomenal opportunity to grow agriculture in a sustainable way, and at the same time make sure that companies around the world and countries around the world are doing everything they can to change that curve. We've heard a lot. I was at COP26 in Scotland, and I think we heard a lot of belief, we heard a lot of commitment, but we're missing really two things: action and delivery. And so I think the call to action is for CHOGM, private enterprise, to work together, really lay out the next phase beyond commitment to action and delivery. Because without that, we're going to fail. So I'll leave it at that for now. Thank you.
Impossible to argue with that sentiment. Yes, please. Nigel, Alok Sharma very eloquently but quite strikingly underlined the importance for climate action. Africa's feeling it more than most places. Developing countries are more vulnerable than developed economies. All eyes are going to be on Egypt in November for COP27, which is widely being labeled as Africa's COP. How much of an opportunity is this to drive climate action and go beyond commitments, as Grant has just said?
Well, I think Alok's described very well how Glasgow delivered a massive step change in international ambition. You know, for those of us who, the ambition expressed by the family of nations in Glasgow was not on the cards in Madrid just 2 years before. So a combination of science and political will and great stewardship, we see that very, very strong signal. But also, Glasgow was really the first time that a COP presidency had really embraced the work that I and my team do to mobilize what we call non-state actors, which means cities, states, and the private sector. And so in Glasgow, we had thousands of businesses, banks, cities committing to the race to zero. We had partners working with 2.5 billion people committing to the race to resilience. And of course, we launched the Glasgow Finance Alliance for Net Zero, with eye-watering amounts of capital lined up now to drive the transition. But as Grant and others have said, that's the sense of urgency and the commitments, and the job now is all about implementation. But the other bit of architecture which was launched in Glasgow, which I think it's worth just dwelling on, is this idea of the breakthrough agenda. What are the very specific deliverables this decade in order to be on track to a resilient, zero-carbon future? So we know we need to build in the world 100 green steel plants by 2030, and that 47 of them are currently in planning or in construction. We know that we need 5% of international shipping to be zero-carbon by 2030, and that means 200 ships then, and that means 10, because it's exponential, in the next few years, and 6 have already been ordered. So I think that we're starting to see this sectoral organisation around very concrete goals, goals that every CEO, every banker, every line minister, because often it's not the environment minister, but the industry minister or the finance minister or the agricultural minister can understand. But I think the next piece of the puzzle is to really regionalise that. And so I've just come from some conference on the follow-up from AFR 100. AFR 100 was 32 African countries committing to restore 100 million hectares of degraded land and calling for investment of $2 billion by COP27. I think we're on track for that. We just heard some very practical. We had last month 150 million in one specific fund launched in May, and also in May we saw the launch of the African Green Hydrogen Coalition. So I think, and we can come back to that, I think this is where the Commonwealth has a particularly interesting role given the large numbers of African nations and small island states, as well as big economies who are in the Commonwealth.
So you bullish about COP27?
Well, I think that it will be about implementation, and there will be a real emphasis on the needs of vulnerable countries, particularly African, but also the small island states. And again, I think big role for the Commonwealth there.
Thank you. Well, you're nodding in agreement there that it's all about the action, and that's already a very clear theme that's come out of this. No surprise to people in the audience, we've got to get things done. Do you see the momentum building? And if it's not enough, how do we drive it forward?
Thank you. It is all about implementation and action, but all of that needs finance. And in order to really get the momentum going, we need to start seeing a steady and incremental flow of capital into the continent for very specific projects, looking at what the breakthroughs were, but those that are also bullish and patient, looking at what it is that we are aiming to achieve in the more long term. So we're talking climate resilience, but we're also talking economic resilience. And it has been stated, there was an IDR report, industrial development report, that showed that countries that were more industrialized had more economic resilience than those that do not. And industrialization in a resilience and a climate action space really speaks to decarbonization, and it speaks to the new streams of green economies and green industries, which I see as a very big opportunity for the continent. So right now what we're talking about is food systems that need finances, and when we talk about food systems there, in itself, that's an industry. That's a sector that we need to develop, and we need players like Google, which, by the way, you've put yourself on the spot now. I'm going to come and visit you in relation to that investment fund, those that are very proactively looking at investing in SMEs as well, and in new industries that can help us in building both climate resilience and in helping building economic resilience. It is estimated that the need at this moment for 2030 adaptation and mitigation in the continent is around $3 trillion. Now that in itself speaks to the need, but we should also double down and say, but where is the next million coming from? Where's the next 2 million coming from in order to ensure that SMEs in agriculture, SMEs in technology, smart climate technology agriculture, where is that money coming from, and where are the projects that are ready? And that is why in my new role as Africa Director of the UN high-level climate champions, we will be convening roundtables to try to broker those deals, find the projects, but also really start a conversation and amplify a conversation around climate financing and around really legitimate project financing in the continent.
Thank you, Buhola, and thank you for putting the key fundamental issue of money out there. I mean, this has to be paid for. James, please, yeah, your thoughts?
No, I was going to build on what Buhola raised, which is, I think the question, the financing question is a very important one, because if you think about the costs of the transitions to net zero, they're going to be quite substantial. And I think the burden's going to come to, everybody's going to have to play. Companies, financial institutions, governments themselves, and other multilateral institutions. Maybe I can just say a couple of things that we are trying to do on the sustainability front at Google. Starting with the financing. Last year, you probably saw this, in late 2020, Google announced probably the largest sustainability bonds in history. $5.75 billion of a sustainability bond intended to finance a whole range of sustainability projects, and as a way to try to create new instruments, because one of the things we don't have are sufficient instruments. So we actually hope that others will follow along and do those kinds of innovations. I should also say that we ourselves have made commitments, for example, to get to net zero by 2030, both for our own operations, but also throughout our whole ecosystem. I think there's a role that companies like Google can play through their value chains and their ecosystems to actually encourage others to move to net zero. I'll say one last thing very quickly. We're also trying to take advantage of the assets and capabilities that we have. So we've made a commitment to try to provide more than 1 billion people with the right information to help them make climate-smart decisions. Everything from, if you're traveling, we'd like to be able to give you information about what are the greener options, etc. In fact, we've already rolled out in the US and in Canada eco-friendly routing, so that when you're using Google Maps, for example, and you try to get to a route, it actually will tell you which is the more efficient route. So there's a whole lot that we can do to empower others, whether they're businesses or individuals, to make smarter choices.
Thank you. Yes, Baholo.
If I may, I mean, to James's point, as they did with driving digitalization in the continent, it is the same kind of vigor that is needed for mobilizing finance for new models. So when we talk about a green transition, usually many people think it means we are abandoning what we're doing, and so many people will be out of jobs. But the green transition is just that. You are incorporating new models as you ease out of the older ones that are not safe and cleaner for our environment. So it's very good to hear the initiatives that are being mentioned by Google, but what is important is that we get more players in the space that recognize the catalytic work that even a small fund can do towards driving that green transition.
James used the phrase, everybody has to play. And I'd like to just throw that out at Nigel and Grant. You know, you've had a chance to listen in a little bit. Your thoughts on the money and coming together. We need public, private, we need business, we need government, we need civil society. How do we build that momentum?
Just two thoughts come to mind. I think this point about everybody must play is absolutely essential. We've got a lot of momentum now in the non-state actors of commitment and mobilization, but just one example of a report we're just publishing with the Science Based Targets Initiative on the role of food and agricultural companies in deforestation. You know, a lot of deforestation is driven by bad practices for agricultural commodities. Only 9 companies out of 148, of course including Mars, come out as doing enough to eliminate deforestation. So, and even though we've got 10,000 companies in the race to zero, there are millions of companies in the world. We have to accelerate the pathway to regulation. It's only governments can raise the floor. You know, leaders in the private sector can raise the bar, but they can't raise the floor. So we have to, and it's taken us over 20 years to go from the Carbon Disclosure Project being an NGO launched on the steps of Downing Street in London to having some good mandatory financial disclosure on climate change in some markets in the world. We can't afford to take another 20 years to have net zero being mandated into markets. The other thing is about specificity, which, and I think this is particularly important when we look at the Commonwealth's geographic spread, is you see a lot of headline commitments. So a bank commits to mobilizing $1 trillion of climate finance this decade. That's great, that's a lot of money, but if they only do that in Europe and the States, then it doesn't help Africa. So I think we should really now need to start calling for those commitments to be broken down, at least regionally, because you know when a CEO commits to, say, 10% of that finance going to Africa, then his team or her team are on the hook to problem solve, just as when a minister commits to 1 million hectares, they're on the hook to problem solve. So that specificity we need to see.
I've just received some bad news. We have to stop at 1 p.m. But Grant, I want to give you an opportunity to have a final intervention here.
Okay, I'll leave you probably with 2 things. First is that call to action, and I think you're absolutely right. We've got to have transparency. We can't say, the discussion shouldn't be 2030, 2040, or 2050. It should be, what are the actions we're taking now, and how does that progress over the time frame? So it goes from this commitment and really brings it home. I'd also signal some hope. We just heard that soccer is a team game. And if soccer is a team game, what does that make climate? It has to be a collaboration of everybody in this room. And it can be done. You know, we have a Mars bar that's going to be carbon neutral. We've taken deforestation completely out of our palm oil. But you have to do something different. We've gone from 1,500 mills buying commodities down to 100 that we can GPS track all the way through the pipeline. So it's a call to action. We've got to change the trajectory, or it's going to be bad for all of us, including everybody in this room. Let's use CHOGM to build the passion, the energy, and the action plans for COP27 to really make a difference. Thank you.
Great note to end on. And to underline the point, time is of the essence. Everyone up here, everyone in this room and beyond, it's all up to us. Thank you so much. Join me in thanking the panel.
Fantastic conversation. Now, we're just about to transition into the last session, which is the closing. In a few seconds, our guests of honor will arrive. When that happens, kindly rise as we welcome them, and then we'll proceed with the rest of the session. Please, if you could all kindly rise. Ladies and gentlemen, please, let's all welcome the Right Honorable Boris Johnson, who's the Prime Minister of the United Kingdom, and the Right Honorable Edward Ngirente, who's the Prime Minister of Rwanda. Thank you. Right Honorable Boris Johnson, I hope you're enjoying the weather so far. Well, that's great, fantastic. Now, over the last couple of days, we've been letting everyone know, the delegates here, the dignitaries in the room, about what's happening in Rwanda. Today, since we're all gathered to finalize things, and there'll be a lot that's happening after this session closes and after the forum comes to a close, let's all direct our attention to the screen. Just have a quick look at the amazing things that have been lined up for you and all that Rwanda has to offer. Please, the Commonwealth Business Forum highlight video.
I am truly delighted to finally say, welcome to Rwanda, the land of 1,000 hills and 1,000,000 smiles, and to the Commonwealth Business Forum 2022.
With the Commonwealth, we already have many things in common, indeed. Be it the language, be it the different systems, financial systems that would enable us to make investments, trade with each other, all together. So there is a starting point that is more or less, I would say, good enough.
I think there's a role that each and every one of us can play, the women, the youth. Let's all come together to the table. The solutions are there.
We have to prioritize young people in all of our financing.
Technology is now fiber. This is what connects us as people, as populations.
I firmly believe, from my own experience, from my life, that we need national EMR platforms across the Commonwealth.
We participate in the Commonwealth because we know we can achieve so much more by working together.
It requires a very different way of thinking and a regulatory regime that says we cannot leave the unconnected behind for another generation. We have to solve it like now.
The global reset has to be that we see the place and role of the agricultural sector on this continent, and the fact that we can actually use it to move economies forward.
It's impossible to become a digital country or a digital economy without laying the foundations of digital identity to every citizen of your country.
As we work to attain the same medical care for the same condition for everyone everywhere, we need to be aware of local context. Unless you know the supply chain logistics of each country, of each city, then you are setting yourself up to fail. And the Commonwealth and the Commonwealth Business Forum can do this, can help you out with this, can help businesses out with this.
As we keep building our Commonwealth community, it calls for greater partnerships, enhanced collaboration, and an urgency to come together.
Right, warm round of applause. Right, so we have to keep it moving. We've heard from him before. Who better to introduce the Right Honourable Boris Johnson than Lord Marland, who's the chair of the Commonwealth Enterprise and Investment Council. Please, round of applause.
Well, isn't this fantastic? And so wonderful to be up here with Claire, our partner, who's done such a brilliant job. And what we've been through in the last few years. I mean, the horror of being locked up at home, all the loss of our loved ones, or not all of them, but some of them, and some of the terrible stories we have to tell about lockdown and COVID. And this is why this event has got such a positive vibe. Everyone's here to enjoy themselves. They're enjoying human contact. It's a fantastically friendly atmosphere, and I congratulate you all for being here and helping us through this last few days. Here's an exam question for you. What event brings together 1,700 people from 62 countries? Millionaires, multimillionaires, philanthropists, chairman of FIFA, chairman of COP, and also heads of state, plus, of course, royalty. The answer, of course, is the Commonwealth. And that's why we're here, and isn't it an incredible occasion that we are? Thank you, thank you. But thanks to you, thanks to you. I also want to thank Claire and her team and my team for putting on this magical event. You've done such a good job, Claire, really unbelievable. You've made us all so welcome. As you said on your opening speech, welcome to Rwanda, welcome to the home of 1,000 hills, and welcome to this friendly community. And without that, this event would not have been such a success. So thank you very much, and thank you all for coming and making this such a terrific event. Prime Minister of Rwanda, thank you so much for joining us, and thank you for hosting that dinner last night. It was a rather a noisy affair with a bit too much dancing for my like, but I'll forgive those on table 23 who were behaving very badly indeed. But the most exciting thing for me, because I haven't done it for a few years, is to introduce our own Prime Minister, who currently is Chair of Office until the handover tomorrow of the Commonwealth, who has always, in my experience, been a Commonwealth champion. And so it's wonderful, Boris, that you were able to join us today. And please, may I invite you to the stage to say a few words.
Well, thank you very, very much, Jonathan. Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, how absolutely wonderful to be here in Kigali for our long-delayed family reunion as the Commonwealth. And I'm sorry to say I missed the dancing last night, Jonathan. Very good to see you strutting your funky stuff in the way that you were. Let's hear it for Jonathan Marland on the dance floor. And by the way, the weather is absolutely lovely here in Rwanda today, but I've got to tell you, here's an amazing statistic. It's actually hotter in London. I don't know what, also my staff just told me. This is a very, very timely meeting. As Jonathan has just said, we've all come out of the misery of the COVID lockdowns, and look at what is going on in the world today. Unfortunately, we still see economic pressures, and we're seeing spikes in the cost of energy, spikes in the cost of food and of fertilizer. I was talking about this to Paul Kagame just now. But what if there was a miracle fertilizer, a fertilizer of business that grew your business, that expanded your profits and cut your costs by 21%? There is such a fertilizer. And I'll tell you the ingredients, it's perfectly harmless, it's organic, there are no phosphates, no nitrates, it won't cause algal bloom. I'll tell you what the ingredients are. It's a common language. It's a familiar sense of our legal and administrative systems. It's a shared sense of mutual trust between us. And that fertilizer is called the Commonwealth. And it knocks, I can prove it, that fertilizer knocks 21% off the cost of trade between Commonwealth members. That's 21% bigger profits if you do deals between the Commonwealth, 21% efficiencies without the expense of management consultants. And now is the time, my friends, to turbocharge those advantages, because over the next 5 years, the Commonwealth's total GDP is forecast to rise by nearly 50% to $19.5 trillion. And these are the markets, super fertilized markets that will power growth and prosperity and create jobs in our countries, and at the same time help to ease those pressures that we all face on the costs of living. So we are going ahead. And in the UK, we're striking free trade agreements across the whole of the Commonwealth. We've done Australia, we've done New Zealand. We're going to do a deal with India by Diwali. We've signed free trade or economic partnerships with 33 of our Commonwealth friends so far, and through the Trans-Pacific Partnership, we're aiming for new deals with Malaysia and Brunei. By the way, it's fantastic to see the birth of the African Continental Free Trade Area. Isn't that going to be a wonderful thing? And it's going to be the biggest in the world. The biggest in the world. 1.3 billion people, promising to lift 30 million people out of poverty and generate $450 billion for African nations, which, by the way, is far, far, far more than Africa could ever receive in development aid. And I massively support that new Africa Free Trade Area. I remember the UK helped to found the European Free Trade Area many years ago, which we then got taken over by something called the European Union. But never mind that. I don't necessarily advise, by the way, that you turn the African Free Trade Area into a single currency, but I leave that wholly to you, and that will be a matter entirely for Africa. But we want to support this project, and we're backing the new secretariat in Accra. And as African countries remove trade barriers from their borders, we're making it easier to sell to the UK, because on the 6th of July, we're launching a new preferential trade system for 65 developing countries, including Rwanda and 17 other Commonwealth members, liberalizing our tariffs, getting rid of those pointless tariffs, that, you know, the tariffs that are totally vexatious, that cost more to collect than the revenues you get from them, abolishing the nuisance tariffs. They exist, and improving our rules of origin to make it easier for all our countries to benefit. And what I feel so strongly about the Commonwealth is it's not just about the imports and the exports. It's about the partnerships that we build. It's about doing more together to ensure that everyone prospers from the new green industrial revolution. I saw some of you, I'm proud to say, at the Africa Investment Summit in London in 2020. Remember that, just before COVID struck, a moment of real optimism. Well, I want you to know we're doing the same again next year, and I hope to see you again in London next year. And it's great to announce that the British International Investment is putting £160 million into hydropower in Africa, creating 180,000 jobs, including here in Rwanda, while at the same time cutting carbon emissions, generating electricity for 3 million people. Many, many African countries. I've mentioned the sun in London today. It's exceptional. I hope you'll understand that I'm not bragging about the sun in London. It's not as consistent as it is here in Africa. And many African countries are blessed with the ability to power economies entirely by hydro and solar and wind energy. Incredible fact. Kenya, Uhuru told me this, and I couldn't believe it. I mean, he's got enough energy himself, but Kenya gets 90% of its electricity from renewable sources already, and they're aiming for 100% by 2030. And I see a fantastic future for all of us in these initiatives, for all of us. And we, with our Clean Green initiative in the UK, want to be the partner of choice for our African friends as you transform millions of lives with modern infrastructure, meeting the highest standards of transparency and environmental protection. And it's because free enterprise generates the resources for better health and education, which is what we're trying to do, better outcomes for our people, that here in Rwanda, infant mortality is down by almost 80% since the year 2000. 9 out of 10 people have health insurance in this country. Virtually every child goes to school. And that is the kind of future that we want to build together. And all I will say to you in conclusion, my friends, is we in the UK have the technology. The City of London certainly has the finance. The government that I'm proud to lead has the will. And our wonderful, wonderful Commonwealth, that great institution, has the super fertilizer to be sprinkled across this extraordinary grouping of countries, and above all, to help to forge a new Africa. Sharing your optimism that the people of this continent and every member of the Commonwealth can thrive and prosper from free trade and free enterprise. Thank you all very much. Have a wonderful, fantastic Chogam, and I look forward to seeing you later. Thank you.
Thank you very much to the Right Honourable Prime Minister of the UK, Boris Johnson. So, he has to leave before we, yes, let's all give a round of applause. We said we're on the last leg, so let's wrap it up, do a proper closing. The next speaker will do the closing remarks for the Commonwealth Business Forum. Please, let's welcome on stage Right Honourable Edouard Ngirente, who's the Prime Minister of Rwanda. Kindly join us on stage.
Distinguished guests, a very good afternoon. I am very, very delighted to be with you today as we are closing our very important meeting. I would like to start by thanking all of you who have traveled to Kigali from all corners of the Commonwealth. This year, over 1,000 delegates participated in the Commonwealth Business Forum. It indicates that the meeting, the gathering, was much anticipated, and that is our Commonwealth family. Throughout the conference, you engaged in a vibrant dialogue and offered practical solutions to the biggest global challenges of today. Looking around, I sense the energy to deliver on the unique value of forum, moving from discussion to actions with clear commitment. As we return to our respective countries and the daily business, let us carry with us an inspired and renewed commitment, which is to build a better future that the citizens of our Commonwealth aspire to. The Commonwealth has an immense advantage, and this is our diversity. We are over 2.5 billion people, 60% of whom are under age of 30. Among us are some of the world's fastest growing economies, and we account for a fifth of global trade. As we rebuild our economies, the Commonwealth can lead by example. We can start by increasing trade between member states and sharing knowledge and skills, innovation, science and technology, with particular focus on the needs of our young people. Importantly, we need close collaboration to address the climate emergency which affects every single member state of the Commonwealth. As Rwanda takes over as chair in office, we commit to working closely with all of you to advance the commitment we have made here and to support actions that make difference. Let me conclude by thanking you again for your valuable contributions. And before you travel back, I invite you to spare some time to visit the country and enjoy the unique experiences it offers. And please do come back
to visit Rwanda. I thank you so much.
Thank you very much to the Right Honorable Edouard Ndirenya, who's the Prime Minister of Rwanda. Please, let's all kindly stand, kindly. Same way we started, same way we're ending. Look to the person next to you, kindly. Soccer royalty, kindly look at each other. Please tell them, we're done, made it. Phenomenal, phenomenal. High five 5 people, please. High five 5 people, or fist bump. COVID restrictions, yes. Fantastic. To all the key partners that made this possible, to the government of Rwanda, to the Commonwealth Enterprise Investment Council, and most importantly, and I'd like you to give a round of applause for the people I'm going to mention, the technical team and the people in the room, please. Organizing this with what has happened over the last couple of years is not easy, so we also need to give the loudest round of applause to Rwanda. I will not take up any more of your time. For everyone going to the cricket stadium in Gahanga, the buses have been given clearance, so at 2 p.m., the shuttle buses, the big blue ones, will be outside to take you to the cricket stadium in Gahanga. Tonight, we have the Rwanda Fashion Week finale, a runway show featuring designers from the Commonwealth that will be at the BK Arena. Please make sure to go for that. Then we have the networking golf tournament happening tomorrow at the Kigali Golf Resort and Villas. And then on Saturday, for everyone who feels like they want to give others a run for their money, we have the Chop Life Kigali concert hosted by DJ Neptune at the BK Arena. I've been your host for this session. My name is George Indirango. Thank you very much. Are those mine? Are those claps mine? Thank you. Thank you very much to all of you. We really appreciate you. We'll see you next time. Thank you.
And whether this is your first time to visit Rwanda or you're a frequent in the heart of the city, from the 20th of June all the way through to the 25th of June, you can check out the Kigali Street Festival right here at the Imbuga City Walk, where you can discover our amazing Made in Rwanda artisans, some street food, and so much more. And even at night, Kigali is buzzing. We just love to have a great time. And you can see it for yourself at the Kigali People's Festival here in the car-free zone of Kisimenti and the Nyamirambo car-free zone. And we've got some amazing food. For the active souls, we've got you covered. Sign up for the Kigali Nights Run on the 21st of June at 7 p.m. It'll be fun, come on. And you know what they say, our common health is our common wealth. It's only 5K, you can do it, come on. Are you a fashion enthusiast? Then get your ticket to a front row seat at the launch of the Commonwealth Marketplace at Atelier on the 21st of June. Also come get your hands on some of the most exciting fashion must-haves by curated designers from all across the Commonwealth. So whether you're a bowler or a batsman, or just a fan of great sport, don't miss the cricket exhibition match, which will take place here at the magnificent Gahanga Cricket Stadium on the 23rd of June. I'm going to have a go. And on the 24th of June, tee off at the networking golf tournament here at the Kigali Golf Resort. Put your golfing skills to the test. To top off a very special week, catch a vibe at the Chop Live Kigali concert on the 25th of June in BK Arena. The lineup is incredible. You will not want to miss it. Get your tickets. But for now, enjoy everything that Kigali has to offer and the very, very best wishes for a successful Chogam. Once again, you're most welcome. Murakaza Nez. Hello and welcome to Kigali.